Hi, everyone. This is Gizel Jimenez, and I'm with Monday Morning Critic. Hi.
Hey, Gizel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
See, I feel like you being on camera now is like a lose bet for you because you have to see my face, but I feel like I get the benefit here. You kind of got the bad end of the stick on this one.
Nah, I think you're gorgeous.
You're the one. So it's so great to finally speak with you.
Same. It's so nice. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, excited. So, I'm so excited to talk about your life, right? This kid that's born in Miami, raised in New York. You're the daughter of Cuban immigrants, which is so exciting, right? That's what our country is based on.
Yeah.
Talk about your early life a little bit, Gizel, just for those listening who we'll get to your, what you're doing for work, but I think it's really important to know the foundation of a person, right? So whatever you want to add to that.
Yeah, so to continue with that, I was raised back and forth in New York and Miami.
Yeah.
And I was a really shy kid growing up. And I discovered that I could perform really late. I feel like most kids are like 4 years old, they're already in dance class.
Right.
And for me, like I had a lot of anxiety. Like I was always worried or nervous. So the first time that I was like challenged to kind of come out of my shell was we were in elementary school, PS 63Q.
Wow, shout out.
And our teacher said that we were going to do a class musical. And we all had to audition. And for some reason, the thought of performing in front of people just made me feel like crippling anxiety where I just wanted to like hide. So I was a very hardworking student and I was very studious. And so I told the teacher, what if I be your assistant? Like I can help you, manage everything. And she was like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So she allowed that. And I ended up learning everyone's lines and writing down all the blocking and just being very helpful. And one day we were in rehearsals and the girl who was playing, it was like a medley of musicals. And one of the songs was the opening number of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, okay. All right.
With all the villagers. Yeah. And the girl who was playing Belle got sick and she wasn't able to perform. And for the rehearsal, we were doing like a run through. And so my teacher, without really thinking too much about it, was like, hey, Gizel, can you just fill in so we can continue through the run through? And I said, yeah, sure. And for some reason, because I had all that rehearsal time, being around people, I got comfortable. I didn't think of it as a performance. I just thought of it as helping my teacher.
Right.
So for some reason, that mentality just helped me to just do it. And I just kind of started to sing. And I did the whole number. And everyone, like, when I was done, everyone was looking at me with their jaws dropped, like, what the heck? Like, you could sing? And I was like, I didn't know. Like, I had no idea that I could sing because, like, when I did, it was never that loud.
Right.
It was in my head, And that was like the birth of me discovering that I had some kind of performance talent. And from then I started to study music. I went to Coral Reef Senior High in Miami, and I was in the choir, Huda chorus.
Yep.
And then I would do a lot of vocal competitions, and I wouldn't get very good markings because there's a certain stance that you have to have with classical singing. And for me, there was always, all the arias were very sad and depressing. Like one of them was like, my baby's dead. And you're like, like singing, but you have to be like super regal while you're saying your baby's dead.
Wow.
So for me, I was like, there's no way. And so I was like that kid who like went to their knees and was like, oh, like, just like, like professing to the gods above. And the judges did not like that at all.
That doesn't make sense to me, Gizel. That doesn't make so. In other words, if this was like American Idol, they wouldn't care what your posture was. It's what comes out of your mouth that matters, right?
Yeah, because it's that genre, It's
right.
Like,
I get it.
Like it's kind of like a person in ballet could not do the things that a person in a hip hop class would do. Not necessarily that the dancer couldn't, but if you're in that class, that specific genre, there's certain things expected of you. And for the classical world, there's a stance, there's a posture. And it's all about the voice. It's not about telling the story. It's that through the vocals, the resonance, the vibrato, that tells the story. It's just like a different.
I got you. Yeah.
And for me, I just like didn't connect to that point of view. So after the competitions, my teacher was just like, Gizel, I think you're very expressive. I think you need to go to musical theater. And when he said that, the way he said it, it just sounded like disappointment. And so I was just like, what? I'm too expressive. Like it just, I didn't understand. And then that's when I joined Miami Children's Theater, which was a community theater in Miami at the JCC, the Jewish Convention Center.
Yeah.
And I basically, you had to pay to be there. And, a lot of kids that were there did come from money and I didn't. So I basically like cleaned and worked my way through the program in order to be in the program. Right. But there I was exposed to live theater and acting and that's when I auditioned for West Side Story. And I just thought, like, I didn't really know about the technique of acting. I just knew that it was like pretending.
Right.
And so for me, I thought, oh, wow. Like, for example, A Boy Like That, when like Anita finds out that Tony killed Bernardo, she's like, you can't do that. That's your family. And to me, I related to that storytelling. And so I auditioned with that song and I ended up getting the part. Yeah. And from then on, I just started to fall more and more in love with acting and singing and dancing. And in college, I ended up going to New World School of the Arts in Miami, downtown Florida. Mm-hmm. And basically, that was like the first year, freshman year, 2007. Right. I started to actually learn the technique of acting, and it was just such a wild, wonderful ride. First freshman year, it's all about self-discovery. You can't do any character work. It's all about who are you? What are your tics? What are the things you do? Do you speak with your hands? Do you look people in the eye when you talk? Really studying all the things you do, because in acting they say it's best to know who you are fully before you can dive into someone else or analyze someone else. If you don't really know who you are, then you're never fully going to be able to be anyone else.
Right. That makes sense.
It's really powerful.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like when you really know your full self, you have to admit to your BS. You have to admit to your imperfect, ways.
You have to own it. You have to own it.
Yeah.
And
also have compassion for yourself.
Right.
And know that like everybody's unique and everyone's different, and there is no right or wrong, or there is no perfect. It's all about doing your best and striving to be a better person every day. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But like also giving yourself forgiveness and permission, to have error,
Right. You mentioned that anxiety early on, Gizel. Is it the opportunity itself that you think squashed that a little bit, or was it multiple things that helped you do away with that anxiety that you're talking about early on?
I think for me, it was the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And so not doing things, just made me afraid to do them, if that makes sense.
Right.
So when I saw others performing around me while I was back, in the background, I was exposed to the idea like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that scary.
Yeah.
I was very much so afraid of the unknown. And the more that I started to see things that I was afraid of and to understand that, oh, they're actually not that scary, or it's not that bad, it started to allow me to take more risk, even though I didn't know what it was going to become or what the outcome was going to be. So yeah, it was, and there's still moments where I feel afraid, especially performing in front of Michael C. Hall. Like, it's the first minute I met him, I just want to be like, oh my God, I love you. But like, I couldn't, right? So I had to be cool and like, but then when I found the moment that it was appropriate, I did let him know in a calm state, like, I am a big fan of yours and I really respect you as a performer, and I really look up to you. Like, I allowed myself to say those things, but I did need time to like process it, so I wasn't a kooky.
Right place, right time. Yeah, I get it. So the last thing about your early life, right? So my wife lost her mother at 13 years old, and I know you went through the same thing. How did you? I mean, I know the obvious, right? I know how it's obviously a horrible moment in your life, but how do you get past it? How does it impact you at that age? Because you have all this stuff going on with acting and all this other stuff, but this, and I know it sounds like your dad was really, he steps up big time for you in your life early on. Yeah. So how does that, and if you don't mind talking about this, I'm sorry if this is like so how does the passing of your mom affect you? And I don't want to say get past it, but how do you manage your life moving forward?
I mean, I don't think that losing a family member is ever something that you can get over. Right. I think it's something that you just have to live with and work through. And I feel like some days are harder than other days. Whenever it's her birthday, I'll feel a certain way. Or if it's Mother's Day, like I know that's coming up. It's always like a tender day for me. But I will say that it took me a while to admit to it, because I know there are the stages of grief. And for me, I definitely was in that denial stage for a very long time, where I just didn't think about it and I didn't talk about it. So I just tried to pretend that it just never happened, right. Which, it's definitely not the solution or the way to do it. It's just me admitting and letting you know how I actually handled it. It wasn't until the freshman year of college, when you had to call out your BS, where I finally said it out loud and like told people and like shared that side of me. And it was a very challenging year, because it was kind of like therapy. Like I finally let myself cry about it. You know what I mean? And it's weird, because it's like crying is strength, but I feel like that old school mentality, a lot of like parents, back in, that were born in the 50s, I feel like a lot of them raised us to think that crying was weakness. And I definitely learned that early on. So I never really allowed myself to go into that emotional place. But again, I feel like acting really saved me in that respect, because really admitting to my faults as a person and the things that I haven't really talked to people about and that I tried to hide or pretend that weren't really happening to me. Once I really admitted to those things, it opened up vulnerability as a performer. It opened up, it gave me permission, I feel, to learn about other people going through experiences that were also difficult, and me being able to have that empathy and to be able to connect with my personal issues as well. And that would be called your as if. Right. So it'd be like, okay, well, Gina is having this experience with her family member. Well, it's not necessarily this particular family member, but I did have a family member that did this and that. And so I can have my as if be there. How is that experience going to correlate to this experience? Okay, so how did I respond when that happened to me personally in my life? And how can I connect that so that it's real? So that when I am that person, it really comes, that whatever I'm saying and feeling comes from a genuine place of remembering that past emotion and feeling that I had personally in my own life. Right. That's definitely how I like to go. That's the route that I like to take when it comes to acting as, a new role. Right. Because I just feel like the more truth that you allow yourself to have, the more connection, and then other people can connect and relate.
And that moment of you opening up, really, boy, I feel like it went a long way for you. Not just for that moment, but just it had like a ripple effect, right? For you. Yeah.
It did. And I'm not gonna lie, like it's, again, like I told you, it's never easy. It's just about checking in every day. Like, how do I feel today? Or how does this make me feel? And just, giving yourself positivity.
Right.
But also, if you feel down a certain day because maybe something happened that reminded you of that person that you lost, allow yourself to feel down, because you don't have to be chipper and super happy every single day. And that's another thing that I've given myself the permission to do. It's like, not every day do you have to be okay.
Right.
As long as you're striving to be, again, a better version of yourself.
Right.
And you try to grow and learn from the day before. That's all that we can do as people.
Yeah, that's so well said. That's so well said. And yeah, thank you for your honesty. That's not an easy question, but you answered it perfectly.
Oh.
Yeah. So you have a lot of opportunities. Obviously, during the pandemic, right? It's a tough time for everybody, especially actors. And I think with you, was it your agent or manager where you were just firing off self-tapes, right? Just firing them off. So let's just say you fired off 100, right? How many real opportunities were there for you?
Honestly, out of all of the auditions that I experienced, Dexter was there was a few callbacks, sure, but Dexter was the first one that like took the chance with me, because usually you do these auditions in person, but because it was COVID, it was all through a computer screen, and you didn't really get to meet the people until you got there on set,
Right.
And so Marco Ciega and Showtime, they all gave me the opportunity to debut myself as a recurring guest on television, because prior to that I was doing musicals for over a decade, and then recently I was in Wicked on Broadway as Nessarose, and that was my live theater. And again, I had always had a curiosity for TV, and yeah, I did co-stars and guest stars here and there, sure, but I never really had the opportunity to really focus my attention to TV, because I felt like I was always doing theater. I mean, theater is insane. Like, you do 8 shows a week. There's only 7 days in the week, and you're doing 8 shows a week. Not to mention you're performing on weekends and holidays.
I got to tell you, that is, and I used to say this early on in interviews with actors that love theater like you do. I don't know how you do it. Like, never mind the 8 shows, which is ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't, like, with a TV show or movie, you could kind of have it bad moment and reset and go back at it again.
Yeah.
You don't have those moments in theater. You got to keep going. Right?
You don't.
That's totally in the moment.
And it definitely is wonderful, because it really trains you to think on your toes,
right.
As an actor, if you're really in the moment.
Right.
And I feel like that really trained me for getting into this TV world, because in TV, it's slightly different in the sense that everything you're expressing does have to be in the same level of energy, but it's also, you don't have to reach the guy all the way in the back in 2,000 seat house. You don't have to reach him, because he's right here, right?
Right.
So it's about really just like sucking it all into one little area, but still being as honest and as truthful as you possibly can, which I love, because I'm just like, oh, wow, this is such a different technique of performing, but whoa, do I feel like I could get used to this type of energy. Because that, like I said, that 8 shows a week, that's constant sweat. the amount of times I had neck pain, because for example, Wicked is the only Broadway stage left with a rake stage, and rake stage is basically when it tilts upward, so backstage is up and downstage is low.
Right.
So, and I was Nessa, I was in the wheelchair, and I'm like 5'2", 108, like I'm a little tiny nugget, and this wheelchair was almost like half my weight. It was super heavy. So I'm over here like holding myself up on a rake stage, singing at the same time, trying to, use my diaphragm. And it's a lot. I had to do PT a lot because I had a lot of neck issues, muscle spasms, and my shoulders and stuff. So it's almost like athlete Olympic level.
Right.
This kind of stuff, and I just feel like physically I could get used to doing TV because I'm not having to like hold myself up. I mean, hopefully one day I'll be able to be in like an action, thing where I'm like flipping and flying over stuff. But still, you get breaks and you get, you have a whole team just like, or you have chances to do it over and over until they get it right. And then with theater, you got that one shot and then you're like, oh, gotta wait till tomorrow,
Yeah. And I can imagine all the ways that theater has made you just this wonderful actor because you get this opportunity with Dexter. Was it something that happened like this, Gizel, or was it a bit of a process? And I know you obviously you sent some self-tape out.
Yeah.
You mentioned the director and a couple other people. Do they take a while to think about it, or is it something relatively quickly that you have the part?
It depends. I feel like there is a longer process when it comes to a series regular or a lead in something.
Yep.
There is a longer process involved. But I feel like for a recurring guest, in my little experience, I've found that you do the self-tape and you may or may not have a work session. But if you don't, you just get the part. But there is the production creatives make a decision. And then if they like what you do, the next decision is with the network and the studio. So there are, departments that do have to see your work, and all as a team, they all have to be collectively in agreement. So
they all got to sign off on it like that. You got to go through. Oh my God! I didn't know it was that complicated.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people involved. What do they say? It takes a village, or it takes an army. I don't know.
No, you're right. I get your point. Yeah. So let me get this straight. If Marco says, you know what, that's the one I want, you're telling me that the studio or Showtime or somebody else could say, nope, we don't want to go with her. We want somebody else. They could do that. They could have done that.
They could.
Yeah.
They could because they are, they are the money. You know what I mean?
So I get it.
They make the executive decisions, but I will say that Marco Siega is a big name in this industry, and he does have a lot of pull, and a lot of people trust him because he continuously produces wonderful, strong, solid work. And because of that, he's continuing to develop a name for himself that people can actually trust.
Right.
Right.
When do you find out that it's yours? You know what? The part is yours. Everyone signed off on it. Everyone loves you. I mean, because series regular is a huge thing, and it's a huge thing on a huge show. So I guess I kind of get the signing off by a bunch of different people. But when's the moment where you finally figure out, great, they want me?
Well, for me personally, it was about 2 months, or no. It was actually a month before the holiday, the Christmas holiday was coming up.
Okay.
And this was in 2020. And basically my managers called me right before the holiday break and was like, we just want to tell you that you got the part.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, what? And I started to cry, and I was like, oh my goodness, you want something and you work so hard, and then it never happens. So you just kind of get used to just working hard, but not really getting a payoff.
Right.
And then you finally get the payoff, and you're just super at a loss for words, and just like, what? And then in March we started. So there was 2 months of can't wait to do this process before I started to join the production, and we filmed from March to July.
Wow. And were you in Shelburne Falls the whole time, Gizel?
No, it was one of the areas we were in, which I loved.
It's 40 minutes from my house, Shelburne Falls.
What?
Yeah, it's stunning. Isn't it stunning there?
It's stunning. I adored every minute of it. Did you get to see any of our left behind stuff, or I
haven't been there for that. We went there after. Remember the movie The Judge with Robert Downey Jr.? It was it was also filmed there, but we saw where they had the bar. We haven't been there since Dexter has filmed there. But how long were you in Shelburne Falls for? Was it an extended period of time? Was it?
We were there were there for like a month or so.
Oh, so that's a good amount of time. Yeah.
It was a good amount of time. Yeah.
It's like no other place. It's really stunning. Like it's, you think sometimes you look at scenes in a movie or a show, you're like, that doesn't really look real, or they definitely spruced it up. Shelburne Falls is just stunning. It's just beautiful.
And it's interesting because someone who's like been living in New York, or it's like, it's just a different, it just looks like, out of like a movie, like a Hallmark movie almost.
Yes.
It's like a little village and everything is like and but it's like so pretty and everyone's like so sweet and they ask you how your day is, and then it's like, so it really just depends also. You get more of the culture shock depending on where you're coming from, because like in New York you're less likely to get someone to ask you how your day is. More like can you move? Or hurry up.
Michael sounds like, from what you said earlier, and just from the looks of things, he sounds like and seems like a really good person. Did you find working with him was, first huge project, and I know like you took time to say, hey, I'm a big fan, but this, when you finally, get into your groove and you're working with him, what was that like? And do you feel like you learned a lot about yourself as an actor?
Yeah, I definitely felt like, I felt warm and just like protected. He made me feel like I was so safe, and
right.
And he could have easily, been like whatever, but he wasn't. I really felt like he cared about me as a person, and I felt that he respected me, which is which I realized that when I'm in an environment where the energy is positive and I'm feeling mutual respect from another individual, it really makes me feel so encouraged to the point where I feel limitless. I feel like I can do anything. And because of his warm energy and his acceptance, it just really made me feel like I've known him for years, and we've like it really helped tell the story of Tess and Dexter's relationship, or rather Jim Lindsay's relationship. And I'm really grateful that I got to experience that with him more than anything.
And boy, did I think that when times were going tough between Dexter and Angela, that Tess was going to have an extra special moment or moments with Dexter. I was like, this is coming. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it was like,
yeah. During filming, we made jokes like that. And we're like, oh, okay, Tess, I see you. It's just like, I definitely thought of that too, especially because Tess doesn't have any kind of weight to hold her down as far as responsibility when it comes to, she doesn't have kids, she didn't have a boyfriend, she was single, and just making money and teaching the kids. I say making the extra money at the bar, but like I felt like she was scoping it out, and the only reason why she didn't make a move, an actual move, was because she had the respect for our sheriff in our town. She didn't want to demonstrate that disrespect. But as soon as she always asks, like, where's Angela, like, where's she at? Like let me check in.
Yep.
But I definitely felt that too. I definitely feel like Tess has or had a crush on him for sure.
And the other part of it too, Gizel, is I'm worried for Tess, right? Watching the show, you're like, oh my God, there's a serial killer going after women. Like, is Tess's time numbered? So it's like, we talked anxiety earlier, but like from a more of a show anxiety, those are anxious moments for the viewers,
Definitely. And I know there was some confusion during the seasons because there was like a body that kind of looked like me at one time, and everyone was like, did they kill, is Tess dead? Like, how could they? But to be fair, his killings were all focused on the runaways. Girls who were running away from things. And so Tess did not fall into that category per se.
Right.
But I do understand the fear of anyone killing anyone. There is going to be that level of like, oh my gosh, who's going to be next?
But the girl who does her podcast doesn't really fall into those runaway categories either, but she fell victim. Remember the one that, I forget the actress name. She was so great.
So she would basically, I feel like the reason why they had that happened to her is because she got too close
Okay, yeah, that
to the
makes sense.
situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
Like
sense.
if she didn't I strongly believe that if she didn't put her nose into everything, like she found the house that Clancy's character built.
Right.
He found this private room that he was stuffing those women in.
Yeah.
Like Tess never found that out.
Right.
And Tess never took him seriously. Like, remember at the bar, Tess was like, okay, like he's a weirdo. He likes to ask me to dance with him randomly to this weird song. But that's her limit. That's all she knows.
Right. She keeps it there. She keeps it there.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like Jamie Chung, who played Molly Park in the show.
Yeah, she was so good. Yeah.
She was great, but I feel like she just got too close to the truth and he needed to protect himself. And that was his way of doing that. But no, she did not fall into the category of the runaway.
And you talk about another iconic actor, and that's Clancy Brown, who is in this great movie, The Shawshank Redemption.
Clancy.
Oh, he makes that movie go. Shawshank. I mean, it's maybe the best movie ever made. So you talk about another actor that you're around, a seasoned actor, a really phenomenal actor. I mean, you're just around these just great talents. It must be so overwhelming at times.
Such a blessing, honestly. Yeah. Also, like OG Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, there's
come on. I grew up listening to him singing and speaking like Mr. Krabs, and like I grew up with that. Like, you know, so like mind blowing, you know?
Yeah.
And then in the TV world you see him playing all these villains, you know, these bad guys, and he is like a teddy bear.
Yes.
He's like the most kindest, sweetest person, you know, and super, super inviting. You know, he really made me feel comfortable as well, you know, made me feel welcomed. And also, like, he has zero ego about him. He's just he acts as though he's never done anything, which I admire so much, because there's so many people that you find get really egotistical about themselves, and they try to have this persona of like being above others. And it's like, can we just like remember that this is just entertainment? And even though entertainment is important, there's so much going on in our world that has higher stakes than what we do, and having that kind of perspective is always going to keep you grounded and not let you get like a big head, you know?
Right.
I mean, definitely having the gratitude is important, right? And the appreciation to work and the passion.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a jerk. And you don't have to act like you're better than other people just because you're making a lot of money, or just because, you know, you're starring in something.
It's a stupid attitude to have too, because you're all on the same team. You're all on the same team.
And we're all making art. We're all creating.
Yes.
Like anybody that I you know, sometimes you see people, you know, with a bad attitude, or I'm like, you're playing for a career.
Right.
You're getting paid to have a good time and play around and pretend. So again, it's all about perspective. Because again, I told you earlier, we're all humans, so we're gonna have bad days. Sure. But like reminding yourself and having that perspective of, oh yeah, like this is amazing. I don't have to just sit in front of a desk all day, getting lower back pain and my eyes getting dry from the screen. Like really having that appreciation. You know what I mean?
And I wonder if that's done on purpose, Gizel, having like a Michael Hall, who's just a good person, and like Clancy Brown and Julia Jones, just these good people. I wonder if that, because I have heard stories. I mean, I've cut stuff out of interviews because people don't want to play, but you hear these actors, like you mentioned, some of these actors where it was like, listen, I have no time for you. I want to get my lines and I want to get the hell out of here. Like it's, you know, I wonder if that plays a part in who's cast, right? No matter how good you are, if you can't play nicely or if you can't work as a team, then we really don't want you. I mean, I wonder if Marco has that as part of his, if that plays a part.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I definitely feel that Marco's, I mean, everyone wants to work with people who are personable and fun to be with on
Absolutely.
set. No one wants to deal with a nut case or a nut job.
Right.
So I think that, you know, if you're that actress or actor who has that within you and you demonstrate that or expose that, the network and the studio and the creatives and they all talk
Right.
with each other, and they all share, even the crew. You know, I you know, make an effort to know everybody's name in the crew. I make an effort to talk to everyone because everyone is important. And and we need all of these people in order to create these movies, these TV shows. Like, there's so many people involved, and so you have to show the appreciation, the gratitude, and respect, because if you think, oh, because you're in the background, you don't count. It's like, no, honey, like, without that background person, you wouldn't even be here.
Right.
So really have that perspective and that respect for each other. But when you disrespect somebody in the crew, or you disrespect another actor or creative, they're going to talk, and that's going to go around. And then people are going to start to talk and say, this person's difficult to work with, or this person is not very nice. Because think about it, if you're spending months with people, right?
Yeah, you're gonna.
You develop like that family vibe, like, you're like, oh, we're family, like let's talk about things. How's your day? But it's like, do you want to work with a butthead for like 6 months? No one wants to work with a butthead for 6 months. It's like, oh my God, the butthead's here today. Like, ugh. You know what I mean?
But you know what? Speaking of non-buttheads, Tess is a really good person to Harrison, and she is what we would call the cool teacher, right? Would you agree? She's the one that all the kids relate to. You know, she's working hard as a teacher, science teacher. Then she does her job as a bartender. So she's the one that kind of is hovering and looking out for Harrison. Just a great character, right, Gizel?
Yeah, I really love that relationship. There was another scene actually that was written for scene 3, but due to loss of time management, we weren't able to film it. And basically it was a scene of us, of me coming into the room, Harrison being done, and me being super impressed by him and the fact that he finished, so that when we cut to the principal office, it's like really coming from the principal. Not that Tess told the principal, oh, I don't know if he's doing the right thing. It was more like she was super encouraging. Wow, let's see if we can just put you in. Boom, you get the next perspective of the principal being like, I don't know if you were being honest. And then she's like, okay, well then she's trying to be the middleman again and be like, okay, well, why don't we just have him take it again?
Right.
So he can prove that he did it right, just so we can clear the air here. Which I was a little bummed about, because I thought it you know, every moment counts, and because, you know, Tess had very minimum screen time, I thought it was really going to further tell the story of how encouraging and supportive she is as a teacher.
Right.
Because we don't really get those moments of her being in that position. We really get like the bartender moments, or like her being away from the students. But things like that happen all the time. Scenes get cut. Scenes don't run out of time to film. It is like super normal for that to happen.
Yep. And, you know, as I have a few more questions. Thank you for all this time. You're such a kind person. So I have to say, I love Dexter, right? My dad, who passed a few years ago, we loved that first, you know, the first go around, and I wish he would have seen the New Blood. From a nerd perspective, I think it's one of the best shows ever created. I do, however, have a problem with maybe the ending a little bit. It hurt me a little bit. I thought,
you and a lot of people.
Yeah, but that doesn't. So this is what I love, right? So this is why I love shows. Like, I can talk movies with friends and this and that, and we can love the show, which we do. We love Dexter, A New Blood. We love Dexter the first time around, but I did not like the ending. Like, we can agree to this. I don't know. There was a lot of things that could have happened. Two questions. Did you like the ending? And 2, would you have done something different?
First, I will let you know that they kept the ending from certain people in the cast, and I was one of them. So whenever we got like the ending part, it was all blacked out. Like, we really couldn't see it.
Wow.
So only the people involved in that episode and like in those situations were allowed to see, because they were really wanted to protect. They didn't want, that going around, being exposed, which I totally completely understand.
Yeah.
But then when I found out what happened, I was just like, oh, okay. The initial like event. But I still didn't really know the details of how it was going to be. So the ending was just as surprising to me as it was to the audience.
Right.
As far as details concerned of like what was happening. When I saw Batista coming back, I really did expect, as a lot of other viewers did, for them to have a scene.
Right.
Like last scene, because it's like how, that kind of a setup.
You're bringing him back. There's got to be a meeting.
There's got to be something, So, and again, I don't know if maybe that had happened, but that was changed.
Sure.
During a filming process, there's a lot of rewrites. Every day, every other day, like they rewrite episodes all the time.
Right.
So it is very normal, but at the end of the day, the collective has to be in agreement.
Right.
So the network, the studio, the creatives, they all have to be in agreement of how it's going to end. And that's a lot of people to all be on the same side.
Right.
So again, it's not up to just a few people, which just makes it harder. Like, when you're with a group of friends and y'all are trying to, like, let's say you're visiting a new place. It takes forever to find out where you want to eat. because Jimmy wants American French fries and burger, but Samantha wants Italian food, and you're like, okay, can we find a place that has everything? Let's go to cheesecake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to give perspective on that, because I know a lot of there's certain audience members who are very critical and like they're like, and they get so angry, and I'm like, I get it, like you care, but also like, it's not just one person. You can't just blame one person because it's a collective. And then I also felt, I honestly, and this is a bias thing, but I felt that Tess should have had that moment with, with Jack Alcott's character. Because I felt like, the moment where Alano Miller's character, he goes to, remember when Dexter sends his son Harrison to the bar and he said that Tess is going to give you food or whatnot.
Right.
So when I was reading that, I was like, oh, cool. Like there's going to be a scene with Tess. Oh, no, there's not. Right. So like, I thought that would have been a really great ending for their relationship because like we already had this build up. I guided him to the counseling. I checked in with him. I helped him be cool at the gym until I couldn't anymore. And I saw Harrison take the test. I felt like I had so many moments with Harrison and I felt like it would have been a really nice payoff to have her talk to him like one-on-one, like, hey, like what kind of advice can I give you? What kind of guidance, but then when Alano Miller's character did that instead, I kind of was just like, okay, but as an audience member, like separating myself, do I care?
Right.
Like why is this character talking to Harrison now? I don't really feel anything about it.
Right.
And that's disconnecting and watching as an audience member for that perspective.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay. Do I care about that? I didn't really. But it could have been I was just biased because I wanted, I just felt like Tess. It would have been stronger if Tess was there.
I agree. Totally. Especially the rapport they have. Absolutely.
Yeah. To just have some kind of like, resolve or I don't know.
Closure, some kind of moment.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Or something that he could take with him for whatever journey he continues on next, right?
Yes, yes. Would you have had him kill his father? Would you have had, if you were writing the show, if you were writing it, would you have had him? Oh, spoiler alert, I guess. But for those who haven't seen it, would you have ended it that way?
Okay, to be completely honest, I would have made it an accident, because then it would have broke everybody's heart. So I would have, how they've had like, especially like there's a lot of, unfortunately, all those gun shootings with kids bringing guns to school, right? And doing these terrible things. Yeah. And a lot of the time, they have this weapon and they don't really know what they're doing with it. And sure, they're doing things, but then there's all this regret. And I'm not condoning any of that behavior, but right. But thinking about that mentality, or like having something so lethal in your hand, and then like being full of emotion, because a lot of kids, teenagers, they have all this emotion. It's all real. I remember like my parents would be like, "Oh, you're fine," or "You'll get over it." But the reason why people, adolescents, they have that kind of intense emotion is because there's a part of their brain that still has not yet developed that part to process emotion. And that's why you have teenagers, adolescents being like, "I hate you" to their parents, and like acting crazy, or being like, "This sucks." It's like when you're an adult, you learn how to manage that. You're able to, you still feel it, but you learn how to put it in a compartment and save it for later, or just organize it.
Makes sense.
As a kid, you don't have that. And so because he was playing that age, I felt like it was an opportunity for him to have all that rage, like, "Did you do this? Did you do that?" And then just be like, like crying almost. Like there's just like a heavily like emotional state, and just be like, "I'm sorry, Dad." Boom. Like, but almost like, or like maybe he hears a car pull up, or he hears something and he accidentally shoots the dad. And then he realizes the mistake he made, runs to the dad, and is like, "No, no, no." But then the cop is coming and he's like, "Fuck." And then he leaves. I didn't even want the cop to even have seen him, Angela. Right. I wish she didn't even address him. I wish that he would have heard the thing and got so overwhelmed and so scared that he just boom left. And if it ended that way, ooh, I would have had compassion for Harrison. I would have been like, wow, like he made a mistake and he killed the one person that loved him, that he loved back, Yeah. But then also like, I'm glad it was the son who made that mistake than anybody else, because if anybody's going to kill Dexter, it has to be his own blood.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. And Angela,
so like, yeah.
And Angela gets really cold, I thought, with Dexter as this. She like has no room for his.
Very cold. It's kind of like, why are you even with him? Do you love him? Like that's kind of how I felt as well. But again, it to each his own. But like us talking as human beings, and just like after me doing it and after us seeing it, that is definitely our personal responses to that situation. Like I wish that there was no take this and run away, and like I'm like, what? You had like you were not letting up at all with Dexter, and now you're gonna let him just run away, and it just didn't feel like it connected. The connective tissue was not there for me, as far as like making the sense of like all this setup. In addition to that, I feel like throughout the episodes, we're building up the notion that Harrison is about to lose his stuff. And there's little Easter egg moments where you're like, oh, wow, like he just broke that kid's arm in the wrestling match. Or, oh, wow, look what he did to those kids behind the diner. Like he's about to pop off. And he's just holding this in the whole time. I felt like that was the opportunity for him to lose it.
See, I think you just stole my answer to my next question for you. He definitely turns into his dad, right? He's got it. Do you think Harrison turns into his dad down the road as he gets older?
I think to be safe, everyone has elements of their parents. It is inevitable.
Sure.
Because there's so much love and admiration that we experience with good parents, or parents that parents that neglect you. There's like a sense of like love me, that need. Right. And so even even though there are things that your parents might do that you don't like, if you want to please them and you never please them, you'll start ending up doing things that they did that you never really respected or approved of, but you just can't help it because you're surrounded by that behavior for how long, depending on how long you're staying in that household. Some people stay, until their mid-20s. Some people stay till they're 18, but that's a lot of time of being with somebody, even though you don't agree with the things they do. That sometimes when you lose your cool or you're upset, you'll start to act out the way that they did without even knowing it.
That's a great point. I hope there's a season 2. I think it's a great opportunity to show how the son has evolved, and hey, another opportunity for you, hopefully. Last question. Tick, Tick, Boom. What do you want to share about that? Great movie. Andrew Garfield is, by the way, in my opinion, the best Spider-Man ever.
I love him.
Yes.
Also, did you see the new Spider-Man?
I did. It's fantastic.
It was so good.
Yes.
My favorite scene was when they were in the Statue of Liberty, and he was just like, I don't think that I'm good. He's like, no, you're great. He's like, thank you. I really needed that. He was amazing. I was just like, this is gold. But yes, Andrew Garfield, I love him. He just so humble.
Yeah.
Very focused. And the level of respect that he had coming into a world that he wasn't really familiar with, like as far as musical theater is concerned, and the level of respect, because it was Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut as well.
Another huge talent. Yeah.
And I found that a lot of the times, like he would ask questions that were just so respectful to our industry, as far as like, can you explain to me, like, if a composer is able to play piano and write music, why would they have someone else play for them? Right. Which, like, logically that makes sense, right? But it's like Lin-Manuel was explaining, like, Jonathan Larson did play for people, but there's sometimes as a composer you have to step away from the piano and have someone else pick up the key so that you can actually focus now, instead of having two things at once. You're able to focus on the vocalist and make sure that that particular area is matching what you thought when you were in the creative process.
Yeah.
And so little details like that he didn't really need to ask, but because he asked those types of detail, you really saw it in his work, and he really became Jonathan Larson.
Yes.
Which was just like, to me, that was just wonderful. And to be given the opportunity by Netflix to sing Sextet was a dream. I had been working on that workshop for about 4 years with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Wow.
Because the workshop evolved. The story evolved because it was basically Superbia, which was like the first musical that he wrote that like didn't really get picked up, and then he wrote Rent. So it's just like adding elements of that, but also Tick, Tick, Boom is also a show that he wrote. So it was okay, how can we get these elements, so that we're setting up for what happens later, which was that right when he writes Rent, he gets sick and he passes, and then boom, that's when his career takes off. But it's like he's not there to enjoy. He's not there to see.
Yeah. That's such a great point. Yeah.
But also, I personally respected the movie so much more than other musicals because it was actually done finally in New York City. We all filmed in authentic places. It really bothered me, like Rent Live being performed in LA really bothered me because it's a New York show.
Right.
In addition to a lot of other shows that were just performed, like West Side Story, the movie, it was performed in like the Warner Brothers studio in LA. Like, it's like, to me, it just loses the authenticity.
I was going to say, it's not as authentic when it's
not authentic. And you could tell, like when you go to a real apartment in New York, you could tell the difference between that one and a movie set.
Yep. That's well said.
And but only people from these places are going to notice that. Like a true New Yorker is only going to notice, like, this is not real. Like, and like, how am I supposed to care about a show that takes place in New York when it's being filmed in LA? How am I supposed to like care?
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Not to mention the majority of these people you're choosing also live in LA. So it's like, what do they know about the New York experience? You know what I mean? A lot of New Yorkers felt that way when they saw it. So again, I felt like finally when I saw Tick Tick Boom, and when I was doing it as well, I just felt like I'm so excited that they were able to allow New York City a chance, you know,
Yes, I
giving them that
totally agree.
opportunity.
I totally agree. Gizel, you've been so much fun to talk to.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I'm so excited to see what the future brings for you. It's going to be such a fun ride. And thank you for
Thank
giving me a moment of
you.
your time. You're such a good person. Thank you so much,
You're so
Gizel.
sweet. I'm actually filming a new series with Apple TV, and I'll be filming all the way through July. So
Wait. Hold up. What can you say about it? Because you probably can't say much, right?
I don't know what I can say about it, but I will say that it's a comedy.
Oh, nice.
And I will say that it's been announced already, but
Okay.
they didn't announce my name. So I was like, I don't know. But very exciting. And it'll be out probably in the fall.
Oh, I'm excited for you. That's great. And I'm going to tell you, Apple TV Plus, the shows that they have, I think it's like $4 or $5 a month. It's the best bargain out there. Like, it's so much good programming. Ted Lasso, all these great shows.
Oh, Ted Lasso, one of my favorite shows.
Yes. So, Gizel, I wish you nothing but health and happiness, and I'm looking forward to the future for you, and all good things to you.
Thank you so much, Derek. It was a pleasure talking to you.